So, hey everybody, my name's Josh Madakor. I'm a YouTuber slash the Course Careers IT instructor, and I have Luigi here who went through the IT course and graduated, and kind of recently-ish got a job and agreed to come on and interview with us. So, thank you so much for coming on here.
Thanks a lot, Josh. I really appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Um, can you talk a little bit about like what you did before you started getting into like IT and course careers?
Yeah. Prior to this, I was a law enforcement officer. I did that for about 3 years, and then and kind of everything before that, kind of just was leading up to becoming a police officer. So before that, I was a civilian at the department I was at for about a year and a half, and then prior to that, I was in loss prevention. And then before that, I had just a couple other jobs. Went through college. I worked at the VA and then another place for insurance. So kind of diverse background, but definitely nothing particular to tech or IT in particular.
It sounds like you probably have a lot of interesting stories, like being an LP and like law enforcement also.
Oh yeah, I've way too many to count.
Make for a good YouTube.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
What made you think to like switch into IT?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say because you know everything I did kind of leading up to being a police officer, I did for that, right? And I thought that was the end all be all.
Mhm.
And then just a lot of events that kind of led up to like, okay, is this like is this sustainable for me? Because a lot of the things that I want out of life, I want to be there for my family, especially for my wife. Eventually we want to have kids and stuff like that. A lot of the things I was seeing being a police officer, it kind of just showed me like, okay, this is going to be very, very difficult.
Mhm.
And I don't foresee it being very sustainable. I mean, because there's a lot of things that it really it breaks you down, man. Mentally, physically, emotionally, and after last year, I kind of decided like, okay, I think this is it. Like, I need to start thinking of a plan B.
Mm.
And so, yeah, so I've always been interested in tech. I grew up here in the Bay Area. My dad worked through the dot-com bubble, and so I guess like being like around him really kind of influenced um, my interest in technology. So and
Yeah.
then last year I came across a bunch of your stuff when I finally made that decision. So that was like around last year summer.
Mhm.
So I came across his YouTube, started looking into cybersecurity and then like boot camps and stuff like that. And then finally, I kind of just decided, that's why I did WGU. So I started WGU back in December, and then prior to that, I was kind of pre-studying the A plus stuff. And so yeah, that's where I'm at today. Came across Course Careers, and then yeah, and now I'm here.
Google. Yeah, it's kind of a recurring theme I hear a bit about like their current, I'm gonna say people's current job. It doesn't have like enough autonomy or has too much um it makes it hard to visit their family or essentially do what they want to do. Well, a lot of those jobs are really important. Like nursing is like another one I see a lot of people transitioning out of.
Mhm.
IT does have a lot of autonomy and like you can, essentially be wherever you want to be. Sometimes, like
Mhm.
if you work remote, so that's understandable.
Mm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So like from the time you started course Chris, from the to the time you finished it, do you remember about how long it took you to get through the course?
I want to say like 2 to 4 weeks. I think I finished the course in about like a week and a half, but I had like a small hiccup with like the proctor service and like course career sending over the stuff. So I was kind of like in limbo while waiting to take the final.
Oh, gotcha.
But I
Sorry.
kind of breezed through. Yeah, that's all good. But I kind of breezed through the material because I already a lot of the stuff you covered was in A plus.
Mhm.
So like a lot of the hardware, obviously the troubleshooting, you know, the networking stuff.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean the labs. I made it a goal to like go through the lab like once I got to the labs, like a lab every day. And then, while I was in that limbo phase, that's when I was like, okay, let me just redo the labs and then like do the other things in the GitHub and stuff like that.
I'm glad to hear you did the labs more than once. I think that's really useful, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you give great advice. It's like, you can't just do it once and say like, oh, I know how to do it, right? It's like you kind of want to build that intuition at least like 3 to 5 times to say like, okay, I feel pretty proficient at it. And let's say like 6 months from now, if I actually start using Active Directory, it's like, okay, I have some familiarity. Maybe if I just like played around with it either prior or just playing around with it like at that moment in time, then I should be pretty familiar with it.
Yeah, it helps a lot, and it gives you something to talk about too. Like if you've done something for an extreme example, or like 100 times, it's really easy to talk about it if you have like an interview or I guess it's a cocktail party too. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think now that you mentioned it, it did help me in my interview process because some of the questions I was asked was I didn't get asked too many technical questions, but I did get asked some. So it was like mainly around troubleshooting.
Okay.
And then so um, coming off of A plus and Network plus, I kind of used like the CompTIA troubleshooting methodology as well as using like a lab. So I used kind of like I used the DNS domain controller and client lab that we did in
Hmm.
CourseCareers. I kind of explained that. It's like, okay, so I'm trying to establish connectivity to the domain controller, and this is why I did the steps I took. And then, yeah, actually, it worked in my benefit because how I explained it, the interview was actually quite impressed with how I gave it answered.
That's funny.
Yeah, because yeah, no. So I told him like I'll use like command line tools like ping, nslookup, stuff like that, ipconfig. And then he was like, "Oh wow!" Like so, he's like, "Yeah, I'll skip over these. It sounds like you know what you're talking about, actually." So,
That's funny.
yeah,
That's funny.
yeah.
That's good to hear.
Mhm.
Did you how many interviews did you have to go through? Did you have like many in the same company or like just a more than one for more than one company or how was that?
Yeah. So, for the particular company that I got hired on, it was actually 4 interviews.
Damn.
Yeah, it's quite a lot. Um, I mean, I always count the HR screen as an interview because it is. And then I had one with a director, and then a panel with like 3 different people, like a manager or 2 managers and a director. And then the last interview was kind of like
Damn.
it was with like a vice president within the company. So it's
Oh,
like yeah, it's pretty substantial interview process, a lot of vetting. So
that's cool. Did you only had to go through that with one company or did you have others?
yeah, so I had a couple interviews. It was mainly just HR phone screens, but I definitely had some trouble like getting past like the HR phone screen.
Oh, really?
Um, because I don't know. Yeah, for example, I had one company reach out to me, and I spoke with the recruiter, and she's like, "Oh, I'm interested in your resume," and then I'll forward off to the hiring manager and go from there. Never heard anything back from that.
Uh,
I had one other one, and that one was kind of like, oh, she was like, "Oh, I'm interested in your resume," and then I actually got referred to that one too. But then at the time when they were at the when I applied, they already had someone at like kind of like the final offer phase.
hmm
And so the recruiter told me like point blank before the interview started, hey, like, I just want to let you know the one position that we are hiring for, there is someone that's in that final offer phase. So I'm just letting you know that there's a high chance that if this person does take it, that we won't be moving forward with you. So I was like, okay, that's cool. No worries. And then that was really it. And then I had my brother-in-law introduced me to a person that lives or actually has his own MSP,
hmm
kind of local to here. And I just met with him, and it was more so kind of just like informal interview. Nothing really like too crazy. So
hmm
I didn't really have too many like interviews, like formal interview processes with companies.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, yeah. Four is a lot. I feel like, especially for your first job. It's like, usually like for those like big tech companies, you go through like four or five or something. So I'm kind of surprised you had like that many for like one company. So sorry, sorry about
Yeah.
that. I guess.
Oh no, it's I think the course careers, like your interview section, really helped a lot. I think because the last time I interviewed was probably 3 years ago, 3, 4 years ago. And
Okay.
so it was nice to get like a refresher. And you know, I think a lot of people kind of don't realize that um yes, this is a very technical job in a sense, like that you're applying for, but a lot of it centers around like customer service. So a lot of the
Uh,
questions are going to be behavior based and
mm,
how you deal with customers and if you're in a situation where someone's angry. So I'm glad that you really covered that, and I think it really helped me as well.
yeah, you probably had some like decent people skills having been in law enforcement as well. Probably those situations are more difficult than dealing with, I guess, Bob down the hall in help desk. I would assume.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. It's funny. I see in Reddit all the time, or like just on the internet, people getting burnt out about help desk, and then I was like, yeah, I experienced burnout, so I think I could definitely um, handle like some guy who has a problem over the phone versus like someone who has like a mental crisis right in front of me. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you have that perspective already, so the help desk seems like not that bad.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And then it's definitely yeah, it's gonna. I mean, it's definitely different because being a police officer, it's definitely more customer facing,
Mm.
especially like as well as loss prevention and stuff like that. It was definitely more customer facing, right? And then
Mm.
the situations are kind of evolving in like split seconds before your eyes. So it's like you have to make those decisions quick.
Yeah.
Whereas like this, it's like, okay, I have plenty of time to like ask all the questions and like kind of go deep down into like what's the problem and stuff like that. So it definitely helps for sure.
Cool. And then you don't have to talk about this part. I can like edit this out with magic, but do you, do
Mhm.
you for in terms of like your salary and negotiation, are you allowed to give like a ballpark of what you got, and like did you have to negotiate at all for it?
Yeah, so I will say that I didn't negotiate just because like I was just willing to take on anything at this point because I didn't mention, but I kind of just left my job preemptively without like anything backed up. I
Yeah,
mean,
I do
my
that.
yeah. So I kind of, but I did this WGDU full time. I did, I knocked on my A plus, my network plus. I did your course careers.
Okay, well you busy.
I'm
You do
trying
a
to
lot.
get yeah. I'm trying to knock out my security plus before my start date, and then
Dang.
so I just was like, okay, like I'll just take whatever they give me. And but it's nice to know like what you outlined in the course careers. It's like, hey, it's like the easiest money you can make. If you just ask, right? Because I mean, the worst thing they could say is no, right? But I just didn't bother.
Mhm.
As far as what I got, I'll give what the job description range was. So it at the company or in the job description, it gave at the lowest end 40,000 and then 60,000 at the higher end based on like your experience like in your locality as well.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, that's not bad. And then you can start getting experience like kind of soon, and then if you want to, you can negotiate next time or something.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just excited to get experience finally. And then,
Yeah.
plus two is being in school at WGU. It's like, okay, I could probably just, do this tech support thing for a little bit. And then once I finish school, then I'll kind of go into like, okay, what can I explore after this?
Gotcha. And that's really good. Actually, that's what I tend to recommend on my channel because there's no real in my opinion anyway, there's no real reason to like wait until you finish the whole degree and then be like, okay, now I can like get a job. In your case, you got one already and you can just kind of coast at your job and then like, learn what you want to learn and finish your degree. And then you have like, all this experience ready to go and a degree. And then you can like, go to the next level or something instead of waiting, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially like at a company where I'm at now, like there's a lot of opportunity for growth. And there's a lot of things I could potentially get into. So, um, you know, I'm cool with just doing the tech support thing until like at least finish school because I do actually plan on getting my master's and then like a couple other certifications as well.
Nice.
So we'll see.
You're doing a lot. That's very impressive. So good work.
And thank you, I appreciate it.
And then how long did it take you from the time you graduated Course Careers to actually like get your offer letter, I guess?
Um, so I got it. I got Course Careers the certificate. I think like the first of the year. And then at the end of the month, I got my A plus, and then I applied to this job, and then so the interview process was about like a month. So I would say about like 2 months.
Gotcha.
But I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I wasn't like heavily applying to places because I'm kind of like in a, I guess like weird spot because yeah, we live here in the Bay Area, but we're actually planning to move.
Oh,
And
okay.
so it's just way too expensive out. So
Yeah.
but yeah, that's why I was just kind of like, okay, like I'll just kind of like lackadaisically apply. I was mainly looking for remote jobs, and then also too, like I kind of had like some educational goals in mind first. So I was like, okay, let me knock out some of these certifications first. I was, hoping to get the trifecta first
Hmm.
before I start looking. And then so yeah, and then luckily with this one, I applied, and definitely course careers help because the one thing I'll say is that I network with people in course careers and
Hmm.
then also on LinkedIn, and then that aspect, like the networking part, helped me get the job.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
And is your job remote? I heard you say you were applying to remote jobs.
yeah, so the job is remote.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. After working like out in the field for X amount of years, and now it's gonna be nice to.
Yeah,
I've been
that's
like researching how to get like my home office set up and stuff like that. I've been looking at desks and stuff. So
nice. Oh, it's good to hear. That's
yeah.
like
Mm.
all autonomy is like here already then.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you did you start working already? Or are you like kind of waiting still and training?
Yeah, so I actually start on the third of next month. Because of the, like I said, with the move and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I asked them to push it out for us or for me, and then so they were cool with that. Yeah, so I just kind of doing some onboarding things here and there, and then yeah, waiting to get my laptop and all that.
Nice. That's exciting. In terms of like the course careers course and then your experience going through like the job hunting process and interviewing like all of that. If anyone's watching this and like thinking about going through course careers, is there like any particular part of the course that you would tell them like, oh, pay special attention to this that might have helped you?
Yeah, I think I mean I'll say the whole course in general is great, just because I think the main thing that really like drew me towards course careers was because like when I was studying for like A plus, I was like, okay, I'm learning all this stuff, but like I'm not actually applying the knowledge to something, like like actually building hands-on experience. Like as you know, like with WGU, they give you like the cert master stuff. And
Mm.
so I kind of did the labs, but then I was like, man, like once I go through the labs, like what's next? You know what I mean?
Mm.
I mean, I could do them over and over again. That's right, but like once I'm done with the course, then what,
Yeah.
So, and then I what I liked about course careers was like it focused a lot on like really main stuff that you would potentially be doing as like an IT support professional, right? So like, the Active Directory, the ticketing system, which is I noticed is like, not just in help desk, it's going to be in cybersecurity or even cloud support. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
tickets are going to be a big part of your IT career. Even like network engineering, right? You'll get a support ticket to fix like something going on with the network, right? So,
Yeah.
but I think one thing that I think really helped me was definitely like the interview section, um, and then the labs. Like I said, like earlier, it's like getting really hands on with something. It's like you're applying the knowledge that you're learning versus just like, okay, I have this stuff in my head, like all this knowledge. Like, how do I portray that I actually know it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like exactly, yeah. So like that was nice, like being able to go through like the course careers and like doing like Active Directory, like setting up users, resetting the password, and then yeah, like I said, the interview questions really helped as well because you gave a really like a good amount of interview questions to expect. Because like I mean, I basically got all those types of questions in like my interview process.
Really?
So
That's cool.
yeah, exactly.
Finally, this is like not necessarily related to course careers, so you don't have to like say course careers or anything, of course. But
Mhm.
for the people watching who like want to get into IT, who are maybe they're like a nurse or a police officer or some other, profession, do you have any advice you would give to them as someone who's just made that transition successfully?
Yeah, definitely it's doable. Especially like a person like me, and I'm 30, and I had to come to a realization like, okay, I'm not that old. I'm still young enough to make that transition to better my life, and so or like not necessarily better my life, but just work towards something that's more sustainable. Right? That was my situation. It was like something more sustainable for my future and my future family. Right? So yeah, I think it's the one thing I would definitely say it's attainable. But then just I know a lot of people in these professions, like they have to rely on it for like the paycheck, support their family and stuff. So
Mm,
the one thing I'll say is like just work within your means. Um, like for example with WGU, I tried to like put it like balance both, but I think it came to a point where it's like I can't. I'm being pulled away from it too much. That's
mm,
why I was kind of like, okay, I'll just let it go. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
but my situation is different from everyone else's. Like, I have like a really supportive wife and supportive family and friends, and so but I think kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, it's like the astronaut theory, right? Like everyone's physically and mentally capable of doing something. It's just like you have to put in the effort, establish the discipline, and just keep working hard at it. And then eventually it will get you where you want to be, right?
yeah, very well said. I like to think about like we're not all trying to become like Taylor Swift, right? We're just trying to work in IT. It's definitely achievable, like you said. Put in the discipline and do the steps. It's
Yeah.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at all the people that you've kind of interviewed. Like, everyone kind of had that like transition, not necessarily like my path, right? Like police officer, but like I know there's people who came out of like carpentry or like did behavioral health,
Yeah.
or like I know one guy was which who I'm actually pretty cool with, Alex. He was in the fitness industry for his whole life, and stuff like that. So I
Mm.
think a lot of people, um, I think it's just the first step is like making that decision, right? It's like, okay, I need to do something else, right? And then I think the next step that most people need to just kind of like consistently tell themselves like it is achievable.
Yeah. Absolutely. Very well said, and
Mm-hmm.
thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for the interview. I'm sure it's going to help a bunch of people as usual. You shared a lot of good things, so thank you so much for that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you taking the time of your day and meeting with me.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, we will see you in Discord.